Hello and welcome back to Kim Reads as we continue with the Molly stories. The next one is Molly Learns a Lesson. Chapter 1, 8 times 7. Molly McIntyre loved to look at her teacher, Miss Campbell. Miss Campbell's hair was so brown and smooth and shiny, it reminded Molly of dark polished wood. Most of the time, Miss Campbell wrote her hair pinned on the top of her head on a soft roll. But sometimes, like today, she wore it down in a page boy. Her long glossy curls brushed her shoulders and swung like a dancer's skirt when she turned her head quickly. Molly touched the ends of her own hair. Sticks, she thought. My hair is as straight as sticks. When Molly grew up, she wanted her hair to look like Miss Campbell's, but it had a long way to go. Today, Miss Campbell was wearing a bright red sweater, exactly the color of 6 geraniums that stood saluting the sun on the windowsill. Miss Campbell sat straight up on the piano stool and sang along with the class in a clear, firm voice. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crowned thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Then she smiled at the class. Excellent, now let's get to work. We have a great deal to do today. Molly watched Miss Campbell write things to do today on the blackboard. When some teachers wrote that, it looked like a scold or the head to a long list of tiresome tasks. But when Miss Campbell wrote it in round, even letters, it looked like a challenge. Wake up, sharpen your pencils. The day is beginning. Miss Campbell expected her third graders to be on their toes. She often said, "School is your war duty. Being a good student is as important as being a good soldier." Miss Campbell wrote geography. Howie Munson began waving his head wildly as if he were drowning and Miss Campbell were his rescue ship. "Yes, Howard?" Miss Campbell asked. Howie stood up at his desk. "Miss Campbell, ma'am, don't forget, yesterday you said we could do a multiplication bee." Molly groaned to herself. Howie said multiplication bee as if it were a big treat, like cupcakes for lunch. Molly absolutely hated multiplication bees. They made her so nervous she forgot the problems she knew by heart, even the easy ones like 2 times 2. She hid her hands in her lap and crossed her fingers. Please let her say no, she prayed. But Miss Campbell was laughing. You're right, You're right, Howard. We'll have a multiplication contest today. I have a big gold badge for the student who wins the contest, too. I bet it'll be me, Miss Campbell, said Howie. I know 'em all. Just ask me anything. We'll see, Howard, said Mrs. Campbell, but right now, please be seated. Howie sat down at his desk. He was so excited he raised his clenched fist above his head like a prize fighter. Howard, said Miss Campbell firmly, please save your celebration till after the contest. Howie sat right behind Molly. There were 21 students in Molly's class, 10 girls and 11 boys. They were seated in alphabetical order at desks arranged in 4 straight rows. Molly sat at the middle desk in the 3rd row in the back of Grace Littlefield, the new girl who was as quiet as a mouse. Molly's 2 best friends, Linda and Susan, were also in Miss Campbell's class. The class was large and square, smelling of chalk, books, and turtle food. It was painted pale green with a high ceiling and a shiny wooden floor. Along one wall above the bookshelves there were windows. There were tall windows, twice as tall as Molly. It was quite a job to open them at the top. You have to pull them a long pole that had a metal knob at the end. It was tricky to fit the knob into a hole all the way at the top of the window, and you had to be strong because the pole was heavy. Then you had to pull it on with all your weight to make the window open even a crack. Being asked to open the top windows was an honor that Mrs. Campbell gave to everyone in turn. It didn't matter how big you were or how well you had managed to job in the past. Everyone got a chance, fair and square. Her fairness was one of the things everyone liked about Miss Campbell. Miss Campbell's desk was in front of the room, right under the flag. She hardly ever sat in it. She walked around the room as she talked or stood by the bookshelves, the blackboard, the piano, or a student's desk. Molly loved it when Miss Campbell stopped down her desk. She smelled like peppermints. Up close, her hands were smooth, square, and small. They were neat and tidy, just like Mrs. Campbell. When Miss Campbell explained things like nouns and verbs, and when I comes before E, she made them seem neat and tidy. With Miss Campbell leading the way, the school day marched along from the first song of the day to the last dismissal bell. Right now, Miss Campbell was standing in front of the room by the maps. The maps were rolled on her window shades. Molly loved it when Miss Campbell pulled down one of the maps. The sun would catch a ring on her hand and send rainbows of light dancing on the walls. Susan, Linda, and Molly spent a lot of time discussing that ring. Susan thought it was an engagement ring and that Mrs. Campbell was engaged to marry a soldier who was off fighting the war. Linda said nobody knew if it was true or not. Molly hoped much that it was. She hoped that Miss Campbell's soldier would come home soon, and Miss Campbell would ask Molly to be the flower girl at her wedding. Molly would carry a little basket of flower petals, or maybe she'd hold the train of Miss Campbell's wedding dress. Any day now, Miss Campbell would come to her desk and say, "Molly? Molly?" Molly sat up straight at her desk. Miss Campbell was asking her something, but it wasn't about flower petals. "Molly, your mind is a million miles away. Perhaps while you're bringing it back to our classroom somewhere where it can tell us the name of the capital city of England. Grace, can you help us?" "London," squeaked Grace, proud to know the answer. Thought Molly. Everyone knows that. "That's right, Grace," Miss Campbell said. On the map, she pointed to London with her long rubber-tipped pointer. "And anyone can tell me why it's important to know about England and London?" Molly shot her hand up before anyone else. Molly stood next to her desk to answer. "Because of the war, America are fighting together in war against Germany. We're helping England. I know because my father's working in a hospital. The Germans are bombing England, and my father is taking care of the soldiers who get hurt in battle." Molly stopped talking and sat down. She didn't really like to talk about her father being in England. It made her remember that he was in danger and very far away. Sometimes she worried that he might get hurt by a German bomb. She looked at the map. The ocean between America and England looked awfully big, and England looked awfully small and not very safe. It was so little and such a big ocean, so near Germany and so far away from home. Miss Campbell looked at Molly. "Very good, Molly. Thank you for telling the class about your father. You must be very proud of him." She turned to the blackboard. "Molly's right. The United States and England are allies. That means we're working together to beat Germany." Miss Campbell wrote on the board, "Allies. People work together for the same goal. America is cooperating with England because we can hope we can get the job of winning the war done faster if we help each other." Miss Campbell said, "Now, for the next Tuesday, I'd like to write a few paragraphs about cooperation and why it's a good idea for people to work together. Tell how the allies can hurt each other. Remember to indent at the beginning of every new paragraph. Use whole sentences, periods, and capitals." "Woody Halsey raised his hand. "Does spelling count?" he asked. "Yes, Woody, spelling counts," said Miss Campbell. "Use the dictionary. Be as careful as you can be." "Speaking of bees, it's time for the multiplication bee." Line up quietly. Howie Munson was the first to have a seat. "Boys against girls," he blurted out. "Let's calm down, please, Howard. Boys line up against the windows. Girls line up by the door. Woody, there will be no pushing in line, please." Everyone chatted happily as the teams rushed to line up. Molly walked over to the girls' line and stood at the very end. "Maybe I could step back in the cloakroom and hide," she thought. "Maybe no one will miss me." 9 times 6, Miss Campbell said, and the race was on. Molly's stomach felt as if it were full of sloshing water. "Maybe I'll throw up," she thought. 7 times 7, 49. 4 times 8, 32. Hardly anyone waited even a second. Molly wondered how anyone could slap those answers down so quickly. She leaned against the bulletin board that displayed the planets on it. "I wish I were on another planet right now," she thought. "I bet no one on Mars cares about multiplication." The girl behind Molly gave her a little shove. "Move up," she said. "You're right after Susan." Molly gulped. Susan was next. "Maybe I'll have a fire drill," Molly thought. 54, said Susan smoothly. All the girls clapped and patted her on the back. She walked to the end of the line. 9 times 12. Woody Halsey squinted at the ceiling. 108, he said. Okay, said the boys. Good going, Woody. 9 times 7. Molly froze. The 8s, her worst. She hated the 8s. 8 times 7, Miss Campbell repeated. Molly closed her eyes. 8 times 7. 8 times 7. Probably in the 50s somewhere, she thought. 59? Molly offered timidly. She thought she was probably wrong. Sure enough, all the girls groaned. Howie jumped up out of line and yelled, 56! 56! 8 times 7 is 56. Why, Molly, said Miss Campbell, I think you need a little more practice with the multiplication flashcards. You better review your 8s until you know them. Molly didn't say anything. She walked to her desk and sat down, stiff with shame. The multiplication contest went on around her. Question and answers buzzed back and forth across the room like a beehive. Molly wanted to push her numbers to her ears to block out the numbers. 9 times 6, 13 times 3. Nobody else missed a problem for a long time. Then, slowly, one by one, others took their seats. Finally, only Howie and Allison were yelled at. All right, said Miss Campbell. One more problem, and whoever answers first is the winner. Allison and Howie nodded. 12 times 13. Howie bit his lip and scowled. 156, said Allison calmly. Hooray, we win, cried all the girls except Molly. They ran to Allison to hug her. Everyone except Molly, even the boys, clapped when Miss Campbell pinned a big, shiny gold badge on Allison's sweater. Allison, excellent work, Allison. I'm proud of you. Allison beamed. Molly saw her look down at the gold badge and with her fingers. Molly looked away. She looked at her 3-week notebook out of her desk and opened on a big blank piece of paper. In big numbers, she wrote. And that's the end of that chapter. Thanks for listening.